So Bong Joon-ho's Parasite. Now, for those familiar with Bong Joon-ho's filmography, his previous films of Snowpiercer and Okja, both of those films have kind of questioned, our society and how like class structures and capitalism, the dangers of it, kind of the warning signs. Staged within fantastical settings, sure. Snowpiercer took place in a post-apocalyptic future on a train, and Okja took place in a dystopian future where a pig hippo had to be saved. And you can look at those films on those like simplistic, fantastic levels, but they do carry this this questioning of society and morality on top of that as well. With the questioning like the ethics of the class structure. Parasite has like some of like it has like much less of the fantastic elements, so that it's way more apparent just exactly what Bong Joon-ho is talking about here, and it's brilliantly weaved. I absolutely love this picture. So the story takes place in Korea, where this struggling family of four is just trying to make their way in the world. They live in a pretty crummy apartment that's in a basement, so they can see like they have to look up to look at the street level view. They don't have Wi-Fi, so they leech off Wi-Fi from wherever they can get it from. They don't have any sufficient means of income, so like the best they can do is they manage to make pizza boxes that they sell, but they get undercut so much. So they're struggling. They're a deeply struggling family. They're the Kai. Let me see if I can pronounce it correctly. The Kai Take family. So there's the dad, there's the wife, and there's the son and the daughter. All of them are adults, and they're just trying to find some money. So, and the thing is, like, they do have skills. Like the son can speak pretty good English. The daughter knows her way around computer programs. They all have a little bit of their own skills and talents that they just can't quite find a job for. So they've got to find a way in. So thankfully, the son, Kim, played by Choi Woo-shik, he manages to get a job as his best friend says like, hey, there's this rich family, and they're looking for someone who can teach their daughter English. You seem like you would be a good fit. It's like, oh, okay. So he goes in there, and he teaches the daughter English. He initially comes in there because his friend has said, look, I don't want some guy hitting on this girl, so if you could just, come in and just, make sure nothing happens, you could do that for me, right? Probably won't. Probably doesn't go the way that he thinks it will. But here's the interesting thing. Because this family is so rich and they have such a great place, and the son can actually make some decent money, he figures, well, what if I could get more of my family in here? So he notices that there's that this family also has a little boy, and that he does a lot of drawing. And he realizes, oh, this family can be easily duped as well. If I just weave the right words, I can convince them of anything. So he figures, well, your son is struggling with art, is he? Is he not? Or is he an art prodigy? Well, I happen to know someone who knows about art that can help your son out. And of course, he's recommending his Kim is recommending his sister his sister Kim. I just realized, dude, they're both named Kim. I completely botched this. I'm so sorry for this. The family is called Kim, and the son is called Ki Woo, and his sister is Ki Jeong. And so you realize, like, oh well, I can get my sister in here, and then we can and she can teach her son as well. And of course, she's BSing it. She knows enough way around art that she knows this kid is just drawing for the heck of drawing, but she knows she can dupe them. Then she figures, well, what if we can do even more? Well, they have a driver. What if we could maybe get the driver fired, and then we could get and then I could get my dad. The dad is named Kim, played by Song Kang-ho. What if we get the dad in? What if I get my dad in here? He could be the driver, and then it keeps snowballing from there. And they figure, oh, what if we kick out the housekeeper? Then we can get our mom in the house as well. And of course, they do this all under the guise that they don't know each other. that this family, that they're all just separate strangers, just saying like, oh, I know a guy, or oh, I know this woman who can help out. And they kind of like sneakily make their way into, into gaining off of this family and doing better for their lives. And I kind of like how there's this great kind of like ambivalence to their actions. Like it's staged as like a dark comedy for the first half of the film, where it's just like, oh, we can easily dupe this stupid rich family into taking us in and getting all this money. And like I said, it's pretty dark because the means that they use to get around to kicking out the driver and kicking out the housekeeper are pretty sinister. It's pretty cutthroat, but they establish that, look, we live in squalor. I mean, their toilet is literally like up to like the ceiling. You have to bend your head down in their apartment just so that you can use the toilet in this place. So they realize, this is what you got to do to survive, and they just say, well, we're kind of on easy street here. But then, I love the second half of this film, because the second half, it brings in a very strange twist. Not a very fantastical twist, but definitely not a very expected one. And then it very much changes the entire course of the tone and the story. Because now it becomes less about, just like the quirky means of swindling a family, and it turns into like a very vicious commentary on the class struggle, and how when you think you're rising, you tend to like kick people down who used to be in a particular spot or are struggling to rise up to a spot, because like the Kim family has spent so much time just being cutthroat about getting into this place, about making money, about trying to survive, that they realize they have to kick people down. And it's great how this kind of unfolds, because throughout the film it seemed like they had a plan in mind. Like, in order to get into this family's house, it didn't just happen inexplicably. They planned this. They got scripts. They staged meetings. They made specific plans on like how to frame the driver as being a little bit of like a louse. They staged it so the housekeeper would have like tuberculosis. They make all these very elaborate plans. But then in the second half, they establish that none of those plans, like, because those plans have like sinister intent, they don't quite work out. And they have like that great moment where they say like, look, the plans that are foolproof are basically no plans, because any plan can go awry, because anything, lots of stuff can go wrong. And indeed, once that big twist happens in the second act, the film, it pretty much drops the comedy. It goes straight dark and becomes a very vicious attack on the class structure. That is, it's both somber and both chilling in how it's staged, because like, especially like, there's a sequence where they realize the family is going to be away. The rich family is going to be away, so the Kim family basically say, oh, well, we can just camp out in the house. And what happens, the scenario that follows seems like it would be part of a comedy, but because the twist comes in there, it kind of becomes more of like a thriller at that point, which a brilliant type of thriller, because man, this film does not mince words when it stages, who is, who's at fault here and who's being like the victim here. It is a damning critique of, like the distancing between, the rich and the poor. So, similar to other films I've talked about this year, stuff like Ready or Not, this would actually be a great, double feature with like Ready or Not, is like a vicious, like Eat the Rich type film. And the performances are exceptionally good here. Just because like we understand enough of the family's plight that we can kind of like take delight in when they have their few moments of tranquility. There's some wickedly hilarious moments here. Like at one point they, because they have a view of the street, they can see when like a drunk passerby might take a leak in front of their window, and they basically try to combat it and film it in probably a sequence that is equal parts gross and hilarious at the same time for how it's staged. And just like especially with the father of Kai-tae Kim, played by Song Kang-ho, I love his kind of like enthusiasm for what they set out to do here. Like the whole family, they kind of take a somewhat of a casual nature to what they're doing, but Kai-take is taking the most interest in this. Like he's like when the family realizes that that they're kind of in, like they have this money coming in, they're kind of they're a little bit cautious, but they're taking pleasure in it. And Kai-take kind of like takes the most pleasure out of this because he's kind of like, oh well, the family almost suspected us because of of how we do our laundry. Should we do different laundry? Should we do different detergent? And he's kind of sitting back like, isn't it great that this is like the only thing we have to worry about right now? Like we don't have to worry about Wi-Fi. We don't have to worry about them spraying our place for bugs or people urinating outside the window. We just have to worry about the laundry. And at one point, they manage to get like a clear signal, and they end up having like a mini feast, and they're like, a toast to Wi-Fi. It's the little things in life. And yeah, there are a lot of great memorable bits of dialogue here. Like at one point, they talk about how, the rich family seems nice because they can afford to be nice. Because it seems like, if you're really struggling and you can't quite make ends meet and the money's not coming in, it feels like there's a bitterness that comes with that it seems like it's impossible for you to be a good person unless there is monetary gain with it. The ending, I won't reveal the ending. I will just say though, it is very shocking, and it's kind of the ending here takes such a strange and somber and just very chilling tone towards the end that, oh god, it left me kind of like just a tad bit shaken at that ending here about how like this family struggled and how at the end they're still kind of struggling, and it seems like the snobby rich family didn't really have to answer for much because what I love about this film is like the rich family almost seems like aloof to the problems of this poor family. They like, the thing is like they're not strictly against them, but in secret they kind of are. Like there's one point where they're kind of spying on the rich family inexplicably, and they take note of how like the rich father is talking about how much he doesn't like the smell of them and how he can't stand being around them. He can't stand poor people. And they talk about how how filthy they are and how they can't stand them. And it becomes this huge trigger for Kai-take that whenever he's around this rich father, whenever he like sniffs or opens a window or is just kind of like on the phone and talking over him, there's this piercing kind of like piercing pessimism that comes over him. And it comes through a lot in the soundtrack too. And it's just, ooh, it is a chilling film, man. It's equal parts hilarious and thrilling and damning at the same time. It is one hell of a trip. It's beautifully shot too, the way they shoot this rich estate. They find a lot of great angles. They make a great use of this entire estate here, like the weird basement they have, the kitchen with the automatic lights. There's a little bit of a story behind the lights as well, which I don't want to spoil here, which is kind of plays into the twist here. But yeah, this is similar to the way that Alfonso Cuarón did Roma. It has the least fantastical elements, I would say, of most of Bong Joon-ho's work, but it's definitely one of his best. Like, I love Snowpiercer, I love Okja, but Parasite, man, this is like his masterpiece, man. I was debating it for a long time, but this is my favorite film of the year, by far. So, as if it needed to be said, Parasite, 5 out of 5 stars. I said it.